Welcome back to Aliza Revenge Stories. Today's story is told from the point of view of a young woman whose boss thought he could buy her, control her, and punish her when she refused him. He took her salary. She took his career. Now, let's begin. My name is Lena, and I used to believe that if you worked hard, kept your head down, and stayed kind, the world would eventually reward you. I don't believe that anymore. Now I believe in something else. Documentation, patience, and revenge that arrives dressed in a business suit. A year ago, I was just a 24-year-old girl trying to make it in the city. I'd just finished my degree in marketing, had a small studio apartment I could barely afford, and a laptop that overheated if I opened more than 3 tabs. I applied to hundreds of jobs. I'm not exaggerating. Every morning started with coffee and rejection emails. We went with a more experienced candidate. We decided to move forward with someone else. We'll keep your resume on file. Sure you will. Then, finally, something different popped up in my inbox. Hi, Lena. We came across your profile and would love to invite you for an interview at Brightsphere Media. Are you available this Thursday? I Googled them immediately. Mid-sized digital marketing agency, nice office photos, decent client list. Not a huge name, but not some shady one-room setup either. It looked promising. I spent the next 3 days rehearsing answers in my mirror, steaming my one good blazer and convincing myself not to mess it up. When I walked into their glass front office, nerves buzzing in my stomach, I saw him for the first time. Daniel Hart. The man who would become my boss. The man who would decide that my no didn't count. The man who would eventually regret underestimating me. He was in his early 40s, good suit, expensive watch. The kind of easy confidence you only get from being told yes a lot in life. His handshake was firm, his smile smooth, and his eyes lingered, just a second too long. You must be Lena, he said, looking me up and down in a way I pretended not to notice. Your portfolio was impressive, please sit. The interview itself went almost suspiciously well. He laughed at my nervous jokes. He nodded along like everything I said was clever. He kept saying words like potential, energy, and fresh perspective. At one point, when I was explaining a campaign idea I'd done in college, he leaned forward and said, "You're very articulate for someone your age." I didn't know if that was a compliment or an insult, so I just smiled. 30 minutes later, I was back on the subway, already replaying every sentence in my head and cringing, when my phone buzzed. Hi, Lena. It's Daniel from Brightsphere. I don't usually move this fast, but I have a good feeling about you. If you're interested, we'd like to offer you the junior marketing associate position starting salary. Not amazing, but not terrible. What do you think? I actually squealed on the train. People stared. I didn't care. Of course I said yes. The first month felt like everything I'd dreamed of. I loved the work. I loved the office vibe. I loved having a real badge and a desk, and co-workers who brought donuts on Fridays. Daniel, my boss, was intense, but in the beginning I took it as him being a typical agency director. He'd walk past my desk, stand a little too close when he looked at my screen, and say things like, "I like how you think, Lena. You and we get each other creatively." He started stopping by my desk more often than anyone else's. "Hey, I ordered coffee for the team. You want anything? Hey, got a second to brainstorm? I prefer bouncing ideas off you. Hey, you should really be in this meeting with me. I want you in the room." I told myself I was lucky to have a boss who believed in me. The first time he called me kiddo, I laughed it off. The first time his hand brushed my shoulder and stayed there a beat too long, I brushed it away. Mentally, I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. I shouldn't have. It started small. It always does. We had a late client call one night. Everyone else had already gone home. The office lights were dim, computer screens the only glow. When the call ended, I started packing my things. You don't have to rush, Daniel said, leaning back in his chair. We did good today. Sit, relax a second. I should catch the bus, I said. They run slower at night. He smiled. I can call you an Uber. Don't worry. He stood up and came around his desk, standing between me and the door in a way that made something in my chest tighten. You know, he said casually, people like you usually don't last long in this industry. I frowned. People like me? Pretty, young, smart? His eyes moved over my face in a way that made my skin crawl. Everyone wants something from you. Me, I just want to make sure you're protected. There was that second of silence where I tried to convince myself I'd misunderstood, that he meant protected at work, protected from burnout, anything else. Then he added, you don't have a boyfriend, right? You mentioned being new, insiper, kinchistipoli inchiwai, sitsiu antichiwoi irao. The way he said it made it clear that this wasn't small talk. I forced a casual laugh. My love life isn't really relevant to the client's ad spend, is it? He smiled, but something in his eyes cooled. Relax, Lena. I'm just trying to get to know my favorite team member. Favorite. Another word that used to feel nice. Now it felt like a trap. I went home that night with my stomach knotted, telling myself he was overreacting. He hadn't said anything outright obscene, but my instincts were whispering and I should have listened harder. And over the next few weeks, it escalated. Stay after the meeting, Lena. I want to debrief with you alone. You should smile more. It suits you. Don't wear those baggy sweaters. You look too serious. You're in marketing, not accounting. You know, half the guys at the client's office have a crush on you, right? Every time I'd try to redirect back to work, back to campaigns, back to anything else. I started wearing looser clothes, less makeup, keeping my hair in a bun. He still found something to comment on. One morning, I opened my email to find a message from him sent at 1:47 a.m. You did great today. I'm proud of you. We should celebrate just the two of us sometime. Drinks? Don't worry, on company card. My stomach flipped. I didn't reply. The next day, he hovered by my desk. Did you see my email? Yes, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I was really tired when I got home. I think it's better to keep things professional. But thank you for the compliment. There. I'd said it clear, direct, polite. His smile stiffened for half a second, then returned. Of course, he said lightly. Totally professional. I respect that. He didn't respect it. He started forgetting to invite me to meetings I should have been in. He started nitpicking my work in front of others. He started making comments like, Lena, you seem distracted lately. Not quite the star hire you were at the beginning. I knew what he was doing. I also knew I couldn't afford to quit. Rent was due every month, whether I had boundaries or not, so I started doing something else. I started documenting every weird comment, every late-night message, every time he joked about going out or about my looks or about me being ungrateful for his mentorship. Screenshots, date stamps, backups saved to a drive he didn't have access to. I didn't know yet what I'd do with it, but I knew I need it someday. The real turning point came with the salary. My contract said I'd be paid on the last working day of each month. It wasn't a huge salary, but it was enough to survive. Barely. One Friday, I checked my bank app at lunch like I always did. Nothing. No salary deposit. Maybe the bank is slow, I thought. It happens. By the end of the day, still nothing. I went to the accounts manager. Hey, I just wanted to check, was payroll processed normally? I haven't seen mine come through. She frowned and checked the system. That's weird, she said. It shows here that your payment is on hold. Daniel marked it as pending performance review. Did he not talk to you, Arkirk? My heart started racing. No, I said. He didn't say anything. Talk to him, she said with a sympathetic look. I'm not allowed to override it. I knocked on his office door, trying to keep my voice steady. Come in, he called. He was on his phone, smiling. He ended the call slowly, like he had all the time in the world. What's up, kiddo? I just spoke to accounting, I said. They said my salary is on hold pending a performance review. I wasn't told about any review. He leaned back in his chair, lacing his fingers behind his head. Yeah, he said, I've been meaning to talk to you. My palms were sweating. Your attitude lately has been off, he continued. Why, Emma, you're less cooperative, less enthusiastic. You push back when I give you feedback. That's not the Lena I hired. You mean, I said carefully, the Lena who answered your messages and laughed at your jokes even when they weren't appropriate? His eyes narrowed. You're being dramatic, he said. Look, if you want to grow here, you need to understand how this industry works. It's built on Marziot's relationships, being likable, being flexible. Flexible, I repeated. As in what exactly? As in, he said, getting up from his chair and walking around the desk toward me, not making a big deal out of harmless things, being appreciative of the people who are fighting for you behind closed doors. He stood close, too close. I signed off on your hiring, he said softly. I approve your salary, your bonuses, your promotion path. It would be a shame if a misunderstanding ruined all that. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. Release my salary, Daniel. I did my work. I did it well. Personal things shouldn't be part of this conversation. His face hardened. You think you're irreplaceable? He said. I can have another grad in that chair by Monday who'll be grateful I even know her name. I swallowed. I just want what I'm owed. He shrugged. Then show me you're on my side again. Don't be so cold. Don't embarrass me when I'm being friendly. Maybe then we'll talk about releasing it. There it was. Not even subtle anymore. He was holding my paycheck hostage because I wouldn't let him blur the line between work and whatever fantasy he had in his head. I walked out of his office on shaky legs, fury and fear battling in my chest. That night, when I opened my banking app and still saw nothing, something inside me snapped. Enough! If he wanted a war, I'd give him one. But I'd do it my way. Quiet, documented, legal, and devastating. The first step was admitting to myself that I couldn't stay. I spent the weekend updating my resume, applying to every remote marketing job I could find, and reaching out to older classmates for leads. In parallel, I did something else. I booked a consultation with an employment lawyer. I walked into her office with my folder of screenshots, printouts of my contract, and a knot in my stomach. After an hour of talking, her expression went from neutral to sharp. Let me get this straight, she said. Your boss withheld your pay because you didn't respond positively to his personal advances. He explicitly linked your salary to how appreciative you are of him? Yes, I said. He didn't say it in those exact words, but that's exactly what he meant. And I have the emails and messages. She tapped her pen on the desk. Lena, this isn't just a toxic workplace. This is illegal. Withholding wages is illegal. Retaliation for rejecting unwanted attention is illegal. This is textbook harassment and leverage. So, what can I do? I asked. Quite a lot, she said slowly. But we're going to be smart. You're still employed there, right? For now. Good. Don't quit yet. Quitting voluntarily can complicate some claims. We're going to push for your unpaid wages. And we're going to document every interaction moving forward. Do you think he'd put anything in writing again? I smiled grimly. Oh, he can't help himself. The following week, I went back to work. I avoided being alone in rooms with him. When he called me kiddo or made comments about my clothes, I just smiled blandly and noted the time in my phone. 2 days later, I sent him a carefully worded email. Hi, Daniel, following up on our conversation last week regarding my salary for month. As per my contract, payment is due on the last working day and I have not yet received it. Could you please provide a written explanation for the delay and clarify when I can expect the full amount to be transferred? Best, Lena. He replied exactly how my lawyer predicted. Lena, as I mentioned, I've had concerns about your attitude and performance lately. Until I'm confident we're on the same page about expectations and teamwork, I'm not comfortable releasing the full payment. Let's discuss this when you're more cooperative. Daniel. I forwarded the email to my lawyer that night. Her reply came quickly. Perfect! Don't respond! Screenshot everything! I'm drafting a formal demand letter. While she worked on the legal side, I worked on my exit plan. 3 weeks later, I got an offer from another agency, smaller but fully remote, with a female director who, during the interview, said the words, work-life balance, without laughing. The pay was slightly better too. I accepted, but I didn't give my notice. Not yet, because Daniel still had something of mine, and I was done letting him keep it. The demand letter went out on a Tuesday. It was addressed to both Daniel and the company's HR director, who, embarrassingly, I'd never actually met in person. It outlined in very clear legal language the exact amount of unpaid wages due to me, the pattern of inappropriate comments and messages from Daniel. The fact that my refusal to engage in non-professional behavior had been directly tied to my pay being withheld, the screenshots, email records, and witness timestamps we possessed, the laws he was violating, and the intention to escalate to a formal complaint with the labor board, and if necessary, a lawsuit. They were given 7 business days to pay what they owed and schedule a formal investigation meeting. I found out when the letter landed because Daniel stormed out of his office and straight to my desk, face red. What the hell is this? He hissed, waving a crumpled copy of the letter. I looked up calmly. It appears to be a legal demand for the wages you illegally withheld, I said. I'm sure HR can explain it to you. You went to a lawyer, he spat. After everything I've done for you? You withheld my salary and tried to coerce me, I said quietly. So, yes, I went to a lawyer. He lowered his voice when he realized other people were starting to stare. You think anyone will believe you over me? He muttered. You're a junior associate. I'm the director. I built this place. I can ruin your reputation in this industry. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I don't need your industry, I said. I already have another job. That made him pause. You what? I start in 2 weeks. I said, but don't worry, you can give my replacement the same mentorship you gave me. Maybe she'll be more flexible. For the first time since I'd met him, he didn't have a quick answer. Wow. He just stood there, breathing hard, then assented, and he turned and slammed his office door so hard, the glass rattled. HR called me in later that day. For the first time, the HR director actually looked like she cared. Lena, I'm sorry it came to this, she said after we'd gone through everything. This should have been brought to us sooner. I didn't think anyone would believe me over him, I said honestly. He's your star director. He brings in the big clients. I'm just the girl who makes the PowerPoints look nice. She winced. That's on us, she said. But this is serious. We'll be conducting an investigation. In the meantime, your unpaid wages will be released immediately. Thank you, I said. Just to be clear, I'm not staying. I've accepted another position, but I'm cooperating because I don't want this happening to the next woman you hire. Her eyes met mine. It won't, she said quietly. I promise. So promises are cheap. But what happened next told me she meant it, or at least that legal did. Within a week, I noticed Daniel wasn't showing up to the office. The rumor mill started spinning. He's on leave. He's dealing with family stuff. He had a breakdown. Then, one morning, an all-staff email went out. It was brief and corporate, as those emails always are. Effective immediately. Daniel Hart is no longer employed with Brightsphere Media. We thank him for his contributions and wish him the best in his future endeavors. No details, no drama in the email itself. But the fallout was very real. I learned through a coworker that HR had interviewed half the office after my complaint. Turns out I wasn't the first young woman he'd made uncomfortable. I was just the first one who'd put it in writing and lawyered up. Another former employee came forward with her own story of withheld bonuses and late-night mentorship drinks. Another remembered comments that had made her quit after only 2 months. My little folder of screenshots had been the match in a very dry forest. 2 weeks later, I started my new job. My first paycheck from them felt like breathing clean air after months in a smoking room. My old company wired my back pay as well, every cent, plus a small goodwill amount that my lawyer told me was basically, please don't sue us for more. I took it. I used some of that money to upgrade my aging laptop. I bought blackout curtains for my apartment so I could finally sleep like a normal human. I donated a portion to a charity that supports women dealing with workplace harassment. And then, one evening, curiosity got the better of me. I Googled Daniel. The company had quietly scrubbed his name from their website. His LinkedIn, however, was still there. Seeking new opportunities. It said, no mutual connections, no fancy titles, no impressive new role. I don't know if he'll ever connect the dots between his behavior and his situation. Men like him rarely do. They blame cancel culture or overly sensitive girls or HR witch hunts. But I know the truth. He didn't just underestimate me, he underestimated how dangerous a quiet, observant woman can be when she has nothing left to lose and receipts to back her up. People sometimes ask me if it was worth it, the stress, the anxiety, the risk of making an enemy out of someone powerful in my industry. Here's what I tell them. It was never just about the money. Yes, I needed my salary. I earned it. I fought for it. But the real win was knowing that the next pretty, young, smart girl who sits across from him in an interview someday won't, because he won't be the one sitting on the other side of that desk anymore. Maybe he'll learn something from that. Maybe he won't. Either way, my rent is paid, my boundaries are intact, and my career is now in hands that actually respect me. He thought withholding my paycheck would break me. Instead, it bought me the time and determination to burn his safety net to the ground. Quietly, legally, completely. And that, to me, is the sweetest kind of revenge there is. Thank you for listening to this story on Eliza Revenge Stories. If you enjoyed this tale of karma and quiet justice, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded. You are not powerless, you are not crazy. And sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to stay silent. Stay safe, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next story.